every single one of our major customers and minor customers all shut their doors overnight.
You need the right people in the right place at the right time. And sometimes you have the right people in the right place, but at the wrong time.
I've got to keep going forward. I've got to keep looking for revenue streams. I've got to keep looking for growth, keep looking at new ways of doing things.
But, what's the culture like at the business? What do we stand for, the values?
I've got to tick that box on my personal development program I don't really want to be here.
Scaling up a business isn't easy. If it were, we wouldn't have less than 4% of businesses scaling beyond 10 employees or around £1 million turnover level, and less than 1% beyond 50 employees. But the contribution that we make as owner-managers to our economies is immense and should never be underestimated. Yet it can be a tough gig for all of us at times, and only other business owners truly understand the challenges that we face. And through ScaleUp Radio, we aim to help make things a little easier. We interview guests who have been where you are now and may have faced some of the challenges that you are facing. And they offer their thoughts and advice on what has worked for them, as well as what didn't. And we've also combined many of the lessons from these interviews and also through working with hundreds of owner managers over the last 10 years or so into a practical scale-up handbook that we've called the Entrepreneurial Scale-Up System, or ESUS. And it's for owner managers like you and me as we navigate our own scale-up journey. And you can order a copy through your favourite online book retailer or by going to all the W's, esusgroup.co.uk, www.esusgroup.co.uk. Welcome to this week's episode of ScaleUp Radio, where I talk with Angela Podmore, who is the founder and CEO of Kinetic PR. And Kinetic PR are a PR consultancy, and they specialise in helping organisations to scale, and they've grown themselves from being local to international since they started in 2004. And Angela is a real powerhouse of a business owner, and that comes across in this conversation as we cover so many subjects in just the first few minutes, actually. And within this episode, though, there is some genuine advice that you can put into practice in your business straight away. And just some of the highlights from our conversation are how to identify your competitive edge and be passionate about your difference within the marketplace, and how knowing your difference will also help you with values and culture within the business. The importance of putting your heart into your business and not always letting your head make the decisions, and instilling in your team that their ideas and solutions to client problems are just as valid as anyone else's. You can hear Angela's passion right through this episode, and it's a passion that certainly I found very infectious, and hopefully that you will too, and help you with your own scale-up journey. Welcome to another episode of ScaleUp Radio. I'm here with Angela Podmore, who is the founder and CEO of Kinetic PR. Angela, welcome to ScaleUp Radio.
Morning. Can you hear me nice and clearly?
Absolutely perfect. So, Kinetic PR. Tell us about that. What do you do?
Okay, we're a PR consultancy, and we specialise in helping organisations scale. So from small to medium and medium to big time.
Brilliant. And
do you know what PR is, Kevin? Has anybody ever described to you what public relations is?
Well, actually, that's a very good question. I wish I'd asked that myself. So, what is PR, Angela?
It is out for discussion. But my favourite one is my professional organisations, the CIPR, the Chartered Institute of Public Relations, and they say reputation. That's what public relations is all about. So, reputation is everything you say, everything you do, and everything others say about you. So when you think about that, it's a pretty broad and complex subject.
Yeah, and while we're on this subject, then how would you say that differs from marketing? Because I know a lot of owner managers will struggle with that differentiation between marketing and PR. It's sort of mixed up a little bit sometimes, isn't it?
I've got this. May I bring sales into it as well, Kevin?
Yeah, of course you can. Yeah.
Okay, so I think sales, when they talk about sales and marketing, they get them the wrong way round, don't they? It should be marketing and sales.
Yes.
First of all, marketing sets up the 4 or 5 Ps. What product are you going to sell at what price? How are you going to promote it? In which channel, etc. And also, what was the 4th? The 5th is packaging, isn't it? If you choose to do that one. Yep. So that's that whole marketing package that a marketing team dreams up and creates new niches and segments, etc. But what sales does is seal those deals. Once you've got those, at some point, some cash has got to come into the equation, because that's where a business gets a license to operate every year from its customers. Where PR comes into it, some people used to confuse it that public relations meant press relations, so it was about getting editorial. Now that's a big part of my role, no doubt about it, because it's all about, forget the press these days, it's all about influencers, so it's that third party of trust. But it's not just part of that PR marketing promotion. It goes well beyond that, and it sits at the chief executive's desk, and it's everything we say, everything we do, and everything others say about us. So it's absolutely in operations, finance, HR, obviously, compliance. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a big part. It's a big part of what runs a business. And I adore Warren Buffett for his bomb mocks. And one of them, he says it takes years to build a reputation. It can be wiped out in minutes, and when you think about that, you do things differently, which is why we came up with this mind the gap model. Shall I talk to you about that? Or
yeah, well, tell about it, because that's what I do like to understand is how you differ from, because obviously there are other PR agencies, and I know none of them would be up to your scratch.
Of course they wouldn't,
but I know there are others. So what makes you different?
So it was during the fuel crisis, where I hesitate to mention this name. P&O was a logistics company at the time. They still are, Ferry Masters. God, Peter Hebblethwaite, what have you done to British business apart from killed it on so many levels, it seems, our reputation. Never mind. That's another story in its own right, Kevin. But Charles Rice, a leader I greatly admire, was very clear when his drivers, who were driving oil around the country at the time, if you remember, the farmers had told them, stay in, because we're not getting a fair price for our milk here. And what happened was they blockaded oil refineries, and the whole country came to a halt for about a week because we couldn't get hold of petrol. And I thought, what kept I reflected on this 6 weeks after the fuel crisis has subsided. What kept P&O's name out of the papers at that time? Why did it not get into the papers? And it was because Charles Rice was very clear. When his tanker drivers were being told, we know where your wife works, where your children go to school, get back in, there was no, that's physical threat. Obviously, it's illegal, but get back in. There was no two ways about it. And it's because there is a very clear line in Charles Rice's and P&O's minds that this is what we expect of you as people, and this is what you must deliver. But if ever you were to disappoint in here, we'll be having a conversation. Not words, an argument or anything, but we'll be having a conversation. But ideally, we'll try and deliver a little bit above here. And that's called, what I call anyway, mind the gap. If that's your marketing promise, that's your operational delivery, make sure you hit it spot on, because otherwise, if you fall below, it's called disappointment, and they'll go and tell 8 people, don't bother with them, they're useless, Yeah. So that brought me into, how do we do that? And it was culture. Of course, that was the answer, wasn't it, Kevin? P&O's culture was what set it apart from many a logistical operator, for which, by the way, Charles Rice got a nice T-shirt from Jack Straw to say thank you. Anyway, for 6 weeks of mayhem in the markets, but never mind. With regards to that, though, I think it's interesting, don't you, that the culture of an organisation, it's true what they say, culture eats strategy for breakfast. So if you get the culture right in your little PR consultancy, when there's 3,000 other of them around the UK, but you say, we do things differently, and this is how we do things differently, and it is a real difference that people can feel when they buy your services, that's the difference. So I did it for Kinetic, and I thought, and then I want to take it all over the world.
And so what is it for Kinetic then? What would you, in a nutshell, would you say is that different?
Okay, so we believe if you're a decent business, you deserve to be trusted. So decent is you pay your people fairly, but you treat them fairly as well. There's give and take in the business. But also you do as little harm to the environment as you make sustainable profits. So a decent business, that's all. We only say if you're a decent business, you deserve to be trusted. But that's my elevator sell. If you were getting in the bottom of that lift at that posh hotel in Dubai, and I said that to you, you might be intrigued to say, well, I might get off at this floor with her. I just want to ask her a question or two. But then I'd follow in with my killer, which is, what do we do differently to every other PR consultancy? And that is, we make a step change to your business with standout communications, guaranteed, and that's the killer word, guaranteed. So back in 2006, I took the decision to do that, and my colleague at the time, my co-director Claire Barker, she went, "We can't do that." And I said, "Yes, I know it's frightening, isn't it? The thought that we would say, look, the minimum we would expect from this campaign is for it to deliver this, and if it doesn't deliver that, we'll work at no extra cost until we do." Oh, yeah. I said, well, when would we not do that? If we've had campaigns that haven't worked as well as, we've put our hands up to the client and said, "I'm sorry, this hasn't worked as well as we would like, but we would expect something similar like this to do." We're just giving a guarantee that we would follow through with more work at no extra cost if that were ever to happen. And the other thing is, Kevin, so many companies, you help so many build that competitive advantage, but so many companies don't have it. When you start your Biz Smart course, it's clear. Make out what is your competitive advantage. And Jack Welch, who's been discredited since, but I think he did say something wise: no competitive edge, don't compete.
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely.
Anyway, so I think that whole thing about that's what we're about. If you're a decent business, you deserve to be trusted. We make a step change to your business with standout communications guaranteed. It's not blah blah blah, it's wow wow wow, and there's a proper legally binding contract behind it. And then lastly, our code of conduct. And if you want to get on the phone now, I think that, oh no, it's Monday, they're not in the office. They'll be there tomorrow, but they'll all be there. You can get one to call you back and just test them and say, "What are your values?" And they'll say care, rigorous, straight talking, pioneering, delight. And there's a set of words behind those.
Brilliant. And I'm going to explore that then in a little bit more, because I think that's really important. And you know that from the discussions that we've had. But I'd like to tease that out a little bit more. So I'll come back to that in a minute. So that was care, rigorous, straight talking,
pioneering, delight. And that's, if you were to say our culture, when you ask us to jump as a client, we don't get, "Ooh, how high, Kevin?" We say, why? Because once that time and money have gone, yes, you get the money back, but you never get the time back. You could have been farther forward sooner. So for us, it's really important that you feel that difference quickly.
Yeah. Good. Okay, so we'll explore it in a little bit, but just for the moment, just for people listening, can you give us an idea of the size of Kinetic?
We've middled around £200,000 turnover. Had anything between 3 to 5 people doing that. We're currently 6 people, and we're turning over about 300 K-ish. I say 300, that's what's in the order book now, let alone for when we finish the year. So we're in a very solid position. Yeah. But that's because what we've done is we used to have sort of big clumps of clients, and I didn't like it, because if ever any of them left, it was really sort of like scratching around for, come on, we're going to replace this fee quickly, otherwise we're underwater and whatever. And what I love about what we're doing now, because we help SMEs, we are spread betting. So we've got our fair share of mid to larger size enterprises that are churning in fees as well. But the smaller companies that we're helping along the way, they pay for themselves. You know, it's not the large companies subsidizing the little companies. Everything has to wash its face. But we've got lovely layers of sustainable profits going forward.
Very good. And how does the business model work? Is it a straight case of proposing a certain project and it's fee for time? We've
automated a lot of it. That's helped. So when I say automation, so obviously you have to have a conversation to unpick the brief at the start, but then you come up with, so right, they need that module, and we have modules for developing your competitive advantage, a communications plan, which is quite complex, but it's all one package where you set measurable smart objectives. It's very like the Biz Smart way, where you can say, right, here we are in April 2022, where are we going to be in April 2029, for instance. Then you have to have personas, which are now far more detailed than we ever used to have back in the old days when you have message matrices and things. These are detailed psychographic as well as demographic personas, saying these are what people believe and what their pain points are. And then you get content themes. That's all in part of a little comms plan package. Then we do blogs, rewrite your website, social media, testimonials, case studies, media relations, internal communication strategies to boost engagement, issue management. We've automated some of, obviously they have to be tailored to the particular client, but it's not like starting with the tyranny of a blank sheet of paper for writing a proposal. You just slot it in, basically. This is what's relevant for you, and this is why it's relevant and how it will work for you. And then when it comes on board, we're just taking it a bit more high tech with regards to project management. So making sure everybody knows what they need to be doing at any particular time on the project. But a lot of the business model is recurring income.
Okay.
So a lot of it is people start with the DNA and then they think, oh, that was good. We start with £250. How about that for a value for money price point plus that? And people still trying to negotiate down. This is a bottom-up costing. This isn't.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, no, that's it. And this one guy is lovely, a guy in Iran, and he said, we're doing business all over the world. COVID has brought many blessings. And this guy in Iran said, no, I understand that, but I just want you to sweeten the deal. And I said, oh, Hamid, thank you for being so honest. This guy's a really lovely guy, he's so well-mannered. Anyway, but I said, I'm so sorry, Hamid. It's not fair to our other clients if I start doing cutting deals with you. Anyway, so yes, it's a nice model that means that, we can see in 6 months' time we'll still be solvent.
Brilliant. And what do you love most? I mean, I can feel the passion coming through, but what do you love most about what you do?
I think variety is the spice of life, isn't it? Variety is the spice of life. And I can, a lot of my friends, they cannot wait to retire because, mind you, some of them, they've got every day is different, but the pressures and the awfulness of some of the things that they're doing in the public sector, I won't go into detail. But I think in the private sector, we choose where our passions are and we go follow those and we make money from doing things, as you say. Think of something you love, think of something you're good at, and then what pays as well. Is that all of them, Kevin?
Yeah, basically. Yeah, that's your hedgehog, the old Jim Collins hedgehog. Yeah.
Yes, greatly admire that. And so I thoroughly considered what I wanted. Charity was a big one, but equally, if you look at our mixed economy, where does the wealth come from to power the public services? It comes from us, doesn't it? It comes from the wealth generators, unless you happen to have North Sea oil. Mind you, then it took private money to get North Sea oil out, didn't it? Anyway, but the point I'm making is we are the wealth generators. We have this incredible tapestry called business that we can work whichever way we want. We can use whatever colours we want, whichever threads and materials we want. And I adore how I keep growing year on year. I've started off as a modest secretary at Harrison Cowley, and then within a couple of months they were sending me down for these meetings, and then it just took off from there. I became an account executive within the year, and anyway, moving on. The point I'm making is I just love helping people unwrap quite complex, the more complex the better, reputational problems.
Right.
And I love repackaging them and saying, this is how I see you. And they go, oh, yes. Oh, my God, I love that moment, Kevin. I love that moment when they go, yeah, that's it. Because you're dealing with somebody who's got the mind the size of a planet. And I come in with my little moon-sized planet. In fact, that might be flattering. Anyway, but I come in with my little brain and say, yes, but mine's a little specialist brain. Anyway, and this is what I see. And they say, yeah, they look at you, Kevin, as if you've invented fire. And I love that moment.
Brilliant.
And it's being absolutely honest. And I love also that says, the moment that says, and you know how you like what I'm saying, I've got a whole team behind me that if you want to take this and make this happen, they'd love to do that for you.
Yeah. Fantastic. What frustrates you the most then? What drives you mad about your industry?
Oh gosh, only the other day, the husband got out the shower and said, put your spin on that. Oh, I'm not a woman given to violence, Kevin. I'm not given to violence, but Alistair Campbell, where is he? I want to smack him right now. No, sorry. Yeah. Oh dear, inciting violence on a public radio station. That word spin, oh my goodness, if I could eradicate that from the OED, I would, as in that it's associated with, you can put a story out there and just spin it as you like. And over the years, not very often now, I think most people have tuned into me, don't come to me and ask me to lay off 600 people and say, oh, honestly, it's fantastic news for you all. But if you want me to say that actually this is going to secure the future of 1,600 jobs and safeguard this intellectual property and manufacturing facility in the UK, I will do that, for instance. But when it comes to putting a spin on a story that clearly isn't the truth of it, I back out of that at 1,000 miles an hour. But don't worry, there's loads of PR consultants out there that will do that quite happily for you for a grand fee. That gets my goat. A little bit about clients giving you a brief. This happened very recently. An international, global brand, a global brand came to us with a very nice brief right up our street, specialist sector, constructions and professional services, and sort of allied to all of that. And we thought, yep, tick, 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 tick. You know, like girls, normally when we look at it and we think, Charlotte, my co-director, and I sort of, if there's 6 out of 8 things we can do and 2 out of 8, we go, ooh. Anyway, not this time. It was 8 out of 8 say we could do. Anyway, and then we looked at the budget and we tried to reconcile the aspirations with the budget, and there was a massive gap between them. And I called the prospect to say, can we have a chat, please? Because, you know, there may be one of the reasons they wanted to spend £1,000 a month on evaluation. And that just doesn't stack up on the scale of the campaign that they were talking about. Kevin, did they ring me back?
No.
They didn't. I was about to spend 3 days pitching for their business. This is a medium-sized enterprise in the UK looking to get to a global size level in the UK, but it is around the world already, and they never called me back. And I thought, actually, that's a great way to weed out a prospect, isn't it? Absolutely. I would have spent 3 days pitching for your business, and you didn't even have the decency to come back and answer my query. And it was well within the tender time.
Yeah, well, it's a great lesson there. Just alone, isn't it? I think we've got to have the courage of our convictions. Sometimes I think we're so set up to serve that we bend over backwards. We end up in some queer yogic position that you think, why are you, metaphorically, why are you doing this? Stop it. You know, you're not going to be great at this. They're trying to bend you to their wishes. Stick to your knitting. Do what one of your previous interviewees do. What know what your knitting is and stick to it. Yeah, and equally, just by asking some of those questions, you're also finding out whether really they're serious about working with you, or whether you're just one on a list that they've sent the request out for. Yes, you've and
contrast that with another guy who came to us, and he's got a sizable piece of business, and he said, we may be too big for you. I said, you may. I said, I'll have a look. I'll come back to you after the weekend. I took a judgment that, well, I'm looking at what you're doing and I can't believe that it's too big for us, but I'll have a chat with you. So totally openly, I said, I look that you're about this, that, the other. Wouldn't you, agree that you're a £4,000 or £5,000 a month? Yeah, he said, that sounds about right. Yeah, fair enough. And then I said, well, yeah, we can handle that, but I'd like you to carry on. So we did. And then he's decided to come our way, but he's going to be very careful how he releases his incumbent. And that speaks volumes about the character and integrity of the company that you're getting into bed with effectively. Yep. It says you really are a decent business because you're not looking to leave this person lurched, in the air. And I think the fact that you can have such an open conversation with somebody where you risk walking away from the business, that bodes very well. And don't you think, Kevin, so much about business is rapport and personal chemistry and whether you trust somebody?
Yeah, of course. Absolutely. So you started in 2004. Let's go back there. Over that time, you built up. You've got international reputation, international clients, got a good team working for you. So what got you into it in the first place back 2004? What made you start?
Well, I was off to go around the world, and this guy, I was with Alfred Marks as a recruitment consultancy, and I was doing some temping work just to earn some money to pay off I'll wait for this student debt of £600. And then, I know, it's crazy, isn't it? And then this guy, lovely guy, I can still remember him now, Mike, Alfred Marks, he said, Angela, before you go tonight, when I was dropping in my timesheet, he said, can I just have a little chat with you? And I said, yeah, of course. And I sat down with him. He said, I've got a pucker job for you. And I went, oh, very nice. He says, it's a permanent role. I said, no, I'm not interested in permanent. I'm going travelling. Okay. He said, Angela, you get this permanent job. It will be far more lucrative for you than temping. On top of that, you'll get holiday pay, and they'll pay you to go on the first month of your holidays. How about that on your travelling? He gave me a real good talking to. He wasn't that much older than me. I think he may have been in his 30s when I was in my early 20s. Those chats. And I remember the girl, actually, my temping girl. She was Winston Bernard, and she was a class lady. And she said, Angela, listen to Mike. Right, okay. And I did. And I thought, okay, well, what harm is there to do to go to an interview? And I met Charles Keel, who is then the head of Harrison Cowley PR in Birmingham, and it was part of Sarch's. And he said, yeah, I've got the secretarial job going. I started on £5,000 a year. And he tried to knock me down on that. I said, no, honestly, unless it's £5,000 a year, it's not worth it for me. But as I say, within months, he saw my potential and encouraged me to stretch my wings, really, to do a bit more. And bit by bit I grew, and then I was off, really. I think that's all we need, isn't it? If you've got a strong work ethic, your heart's in it. And I remember my mum and dad saying, why are you working all these extra hours? You're not getting paid for them. I said, because the work's to be done. I dressed up as a Thai food teapot at Keighley at the opening of Morrison's. But I got to meet Ken Morrison as a teapot, admittedly. Kid Jensen in a teapot, but that's another story. Anyway, but we had some adventures, doing the biggest balloon release from somewhere in Liverpool. That was all work with Cadbury Thai food. And then, there were lots and lots of other really good experiences as a result of taking that work. I never did get to go travelling, but I've paid to go travelling 4-star instead because of a brilliant career that's been very lucrative for me. Anyway, but just to say, going back to that, I'm still in touch with Charles Keel, and we still love what we do. He's retired, long retired, but we still love it.
Brilliant. So what got you into setting up Kinetic, though, in 2004?
I'd done it for a company. I was in my mid-30s, and a man came to me with £20 million worth of venture capital in his back pocket and said, I'd like to set up a Birmingham branch. Are you interested? Yes, I am. Right. Anyway, that led to Hatch Group. That was great. And then that was working with Michael Murphy. Learned loads off him, because although I worked at a company called Key Communications that did me well, there was a ceiling. I never managed to break through that ceiling. And anyway, so it was a no-brainer for me to set up this company, even though it was after September 11. I thought, this is going to be a rough ride. But it was a rough ride, but it was a good rough ride. And then because of the rough ride, I got a golden goodbye 2 years later. So that gave me the startup capital, the seed capital, to put into Kinetic. And I've always enjoyed playing with my own money more than playing with somebody else's money, which is a bit perverse, isn't it? You think it'd be better the other way around. But that was where Kinetic came from. And Mike says, the husband now, he says, not the husband from Alfred Marks, another Mike. Anyway, Mike's a very big name in my life. And he said, I know you could have earned more money in public relations if you hadn't set up your own company, but I don't think you could have been any happier. And I think that's the truth. I think when you run your own gaff, your successes are your own, your failures are your own as well, your challenges are your own, but by God, you thoroughly enjoy. And one of the big tips I'd say, Kevin, to any startup is get financial control, because as soon as you've got financial control, at least you know you're going bust. Because you know when people say the sleepless nights they have, I can count on one hand in 17 years now. Kinetic's been 5 times I've possibly woken up, say, about work in all those 17 years, because as long as you've got financial control, you're okay. And another great tip Isabel Heaton gave me, a brilliant coach. She said, what do you believe right now that's making you feel this way? Ooh, great question that is. What do you believe right now that's making you feel this way? And when you analyze it, you realize how irrational you can be at times.
That's a really good,
it's a really
good one for when you're either feeling really stressed, or when you've got an issue with a customer or a team member or whatever else, isn't it? It's taking that step back and not just jumping to conclusion and going down that emotional route. Very good.
That's it. Keeping your head over your heart at times, but then equally sometimes it's really important to put your heart into your business.
Yeah. And yes, absolutely. That's kind of that's the passion, isn't it? That's what can separate you about. And you were talking about those relationships early on in the conversation about the importance of those personal relationships, and that's part of what we're buying into, isn't it? Is that each other's emotions, passions, and whatever else. But jumping on something negative and then we believe it's bigger than it is, kind of thing, is easy to do, isn't it? And
magnifying it.
Don't know about you, but I think email is dreadful for that, because it's so easy to read something into an email that isn't intended.
Yes, that's it. And I say to lots of people, pick up the phone. Pick up the phone. It's just the light and shade in your voice, your intonation and whatever, they can tell. But equally, we had upsets in the office last week because we were chasing the client for some approval and they spoke very harshly. I thought, see, if that had been on an email, there'd have been no problem with that. But the problem is they could read the tone down the phone line. But I totally agree, Kevin. And one of the nice things, I asked one of the team the other day, I said, you've come on so much in just 6 months. I'm so proud of your journey, how you've gone from this timid person to this very ballsy person rocking and rolling with the British media. And she said, I know, I can feel it. And my boyfriend can. He said the other day that they were looking at this restaurant they'd set their hearts on going to on the Saturday night, and on the internet, no space is available. She rang them up and he said, blimey, you'd never ring them up normally. He's known her for a number of years, and that's the sort of change. But it's not just about using the phone. I know that seems elementary. It's having that confidence in that I'm going to do this, I'm going to make something happen, and how that opens up a whole new world for you. Well, I did that, what else could I do?
Yeah, absolutely. So let's go back to financial control then for a minute, because so what do you mean by financial control? What could help other people?
Well, when I come from a long line of entrepreneurs. My dad was a plumber general builder. I don't count him as an entrepreneur because he was a sole trader, really. There's another story there, but that's for another time. My Aunt Lil was a director in the 1940s and 50s of a business, a logistics business. And she said, when I set up Kinetic, just make sure your ins are more than your outs. What guidance that is, Kevin. What good guidance is that? There's many an NROM that could learn from that. Anyway, so yes, make sure your ins are more than your outs. So as long as you've got a spreadsheet, that's all you need, isn't it? All right, if you're no good at Excel, just put it in Word, but make sure your calculator adds up. Just put in your ins and then say, right, these are all the expenses going out against it. The other thing I'm looking for is you've got to pay yourself a market rate, because if you pay yourself a market rate, when you come to dispose of your business, that person is on the market rate that they're interested in taking on that business, rather than I've the investor and I've taken on this role now at a below market rate. So just make sure your ins are more than your outs. The document that has helped me through the 2007/8 crisis and the COVID crisis was my cash flow forecast.
Right.
So as long as you can see you've got that pot of cash and it's at least 6 times break even, you're good. And when you start dipping into that, you're in trouble.
Great. So you got a couple of things there: the cash flow forecast and your magic number of 6 times break even. Yep.
Yeah.
So what advice would you give to people about doing a cash flow forecast? Simple spreadsheet, or what do you?
Well, perhaps just 6 times break it. How many people know the break even point, Kevin?
Yep. Good.
I know I did at the start. Anyway, so when you have control of that, and then how your finances are changing, varying versus your commitments for purchases, then how that break even's changing. So I don't look upon something as £600 a year. I think that's 50 quid on top of my break even a month. It's almost like housekeeping. Anyway, but the other thing I like, have you heard of Profit First?
Absolutely. Yeah.
You like it, Kevin?
I do, very much so.
Yeah, I'm just getting with the program.
Michael Mikhailovich, I believe.
Oh, well done, you. You're well ahead of the program. You know how to pronounce his surname.
Well, I don't know whether I pronounced it right.
Anyway, I love that book. Why do you love it?
Well, we've started to use it ourselves as a business, have done for about 6 months, but also we bring it into the discussions we have with our clients about managing their cash flow. So
we're doing the same. Do you go on and describe it, Kevin? I think you're further along the program, but we're targeting sort of maximum 20% profit, and therefore, if we're shooting for the stars and we miss and we land on the moon, we're getting 15%.
Great.
Net.
I think there's a lot of things about the profit first, which is great, and maybe we'll do a full episode on it at some point. But the very simplistic way of looking at it is a little bit like our grandmothers used to do with the money for the milkman and the various other aspects, wasn't it? We'd put it in envelopes, so you put a little bit aside each time. Now that oversimplifies profit first, but essentially it's about something you mentioned earlier as well, paying yourself market rate salary to make sure the business makes profit, but also that you as an individual get paid as the owners of the business. But essentially, instead of managing all of our money in one pot, in one account, we have a few key accounts. That means we are putting money aside to pay our tax. We're putting money aside for the profit of the business first that we expect to make. And what that does, although that sounds really simplistic, but what it does is it means that when there's a constraint on the business as to have we got more ins and outs, is essentially the constraint is on the operating expenses of the business, not on the owner's compensation or on the profits of the business. It's like, hang on, doesn't look like there's going to be enough money in this particular pot to pay our operating expenses. So what does the business need to do about that? Not, do I as the owner need to take less money this month or even put money back in? It's, hang on, we've got a challenge here. How do we address that? So it changes the mindset of, I think, as well as doing what you said right at the beginning there on the financial control, is it's a fantastic way of really having control over that and avoiding these, because we're all the same. When we think we've got a load of money in the account, we're more likely to go, well, I'll just buy that thing or I'll spend on that or whatever else.
Yeah.
But we might have forgotten that there's some big bill coming in, and then we're stuck. Or equally, what normally happens the other way around is when things are tight, then we start to look at every penny that goes out of the accounts. Well, what Profit First does is a way of helping in a nice, easy framework to make sure that you really have oversight of everything in control that's going in and out of the business. So I don't know if that tallies with what you.
Absolutely. I'm really glad I delegated it to you to explain, because I never have put it that eloquently. But for me, here's a tiny little example. So we've got 90,000 toxic backlinks coming into our website, which isn't great for a PR consultancy, to admit that. But I don't mind telling you this, because let me tell you, we are getting a lead a week, a solid lead per week from our website. So it's obviously working of a level. And it's going to cost us about £3,500 to £5,000 to use the Google disavow tool. You've got to know what you're doing basically when you're using this tool, because otherwise you could ruin your domain, let alone anything else for the ongoing 6 months, 12 months. Anyway, I decide, yes, we need this, Charlotte. And Charlotte says, do we need it now? Because actually we're doing so well that we now need a recruitment drive, don't we? I thought, no, she's right. She is right. She says, thank you for your breaks, Charlotte. She is the breaks of the business in some regards, in a good way. And I said, you're absolutely right. We don't want any more business at the moment. Let's focus on getting the people into the business. And then as in gearing up, so we've got, do you say about 5 times the capacity? If you get 5 times the work that you're dealing with at the moment, would you have that capacity?
Yes.
We're certainly behind the pace on that, Kevin. We've got about 2 or 3 times, but we've, to go towards that million mark, you need quite a few more people, and really, good people. You need to often train them up. Anyway, so yes, that was only £3,500, £6,000 we saved, but that's £500 a month on your break even. That's going to compromise your profits only slightly, but it's going to compromise them. And so that's just a little bit of the thinking that Profit First has brought in.
Yeah. And you mentioned the 20% profit bands, and what it also does then is it essentially has some guidelines as to, if you are a certain size of business,
yes,
these are the percentages, these are the way you should split your budgets, including how much profit you should be making, what percentage of owners' compensation you should take, which does, for me, that does 2 really important things for our business, but also with clients that we work with, which is, the first is, you go, well, if we do those splits now, would it work, or would we actually end up with no money in the in that account? If we're putting this amount in the profit bit and this amount in the owner's compensation and the taxes, would we actually have anything left to pay our operating rate? Because that's the first thing. It stress tests your business now, because if you can't, then you're not going to scale. You're just going to grow. You're just going to increase the headaches. That's the first thing. But the other is, if you're looking ahead and you're doing your strategic planning then, and you're saying, right, in the next 3 years, so 3 years time, we want the business to look like this, and we want this number of employees, and we put this turnover, this number of customers, all of that. And if you model that out using the profit first percentages, then it gives you that guideline then as to whether the model will work there. Because if you suddenly go, well, actually it doesn't, we've said we wanted 25 people on the headcount to make that work, and it just doesn't work. Well, we've got to do it with 20. So how do we make it work with 20? So it stress tests your future plan, as well as the current business model. So I think it's a really invaluable guide to help. And so we've really done a good job of promoting Mike Mikhailovich's book there, I think, on profit first.
Yes.
It's good.
But that's financially, I would say, that's the key. I think once you've got financial control, we used to do quite complex ratios, not just the acid test, but debtors days. Obviously, we still keep a grip on that. I can't recommend Xero enough for that. Oh, wow, we've got that sorted now. With Xero, we send out a reminder the week before to say, you have got your invoice, but if you haven't managed to find it, let us know. The day after it was due to be paid, if it's failed to be paid, another automated message goes out saying, you now have 2 weeks to pay, at which point we start incurring interest at statutory levels. They get one a week later, and then one a week later saying, right, you're now into interest. We have zero debtor problems now. Zero.
Brilliant. No, you've got that working really well then.
And every contract is contracted in writing. That's using a lovely little engine called Better Proposals. And we're using concept integrated systems to take that contract across into the project management, and hopefully eventually that will be integrated with the Xero financial.
Good. Better Proposal is not one I'd heard of. I know of Go Proposal, I think, which is more to do with the accounting world. But the Better Proposal, that sounds so. That's a tool that you use to help you to
automate
the proposal writing, but also then the contract element of it, make sure people that are on the right packages.
E-signed at the bottom. Can you imagine how long we used to chase an email saying, can you just give us your G2G on that? You're good to go. Would you mind awfully?
Excellent.
Pleasant.
Good. So we've talked a lot about the cash management side of things. What other milestones if you had? What sort of milestones have you had along your journey then from 2004? What are some of the big things you've got right?
I think I struggled for many years to get across my concepts as simply as we do now. I think that's the big difference. That's the last 3 years we've done a massive root and branch review of our business, which has been very lucrative for us on the R&D tax credit scheme, because a lot of energy has gone into engineering these packages for SMEs, as well as the guarantee, making that more meaningful for larger organisations. And the way we've done that is to say that there's this model I wish I'd come up with this at the start, and this is pure out of my head, unique IP. Unfortunately, you can't trademark this as an idea, but I'm happy to give it to the world, which is vision, mission, values. That's what a brand is these days. You've got to have some meaning in your business. So many people, when you ask them why they're in business, what do they answer, Kevin?
Make money.
Yeah, spot on. I say, no, that's a result. It's a result. It's not why you're doing it. You can make money lots of ways. Why do you choose to do this? And also, you're not in business unless you're making money. We don't survive unless we're making money. Anyway, and you remember that thing about your customers donate your license every year by giving you a contract.
Yes, I like
anyway,
that.
So these days it's about putting that meaning in. It's about having your niche. I got a new business prospect came to us through the website. This isn't one of the good quality ones that came through. And he's saying that, first of all, he's an expert in Bitcoin. Fair enough. Cyber currencies. Yeah, fair enough. Then he's an expert in legals.
Right.
To be an expert in that. Oh, no. Well, perhaps it's legals of Bitcoin. No, It went worse, Kevin. Then he's a marketing expert. Right. You can't be an expert at everything under the one brand. Anyway, you need to have special umbrella overgoing those sorts of skills, and you certainly need more than one person. Anyway, you need that niche. So this is where we say you need a mission statement of some sort, but it's not like a mission like so many people define them. It's what makes you better or unique or different at what you do than anybody else. So ours is, we make a step change to your business with standout communications guaranteed. And then you need this value set, this code of conduct. I adore David McLeod, the guy who set up with Nita Smith, the engagement study with under Tony Blair's government, that they noticed this link between, if your culture is full of engaged employees versus those that aren't, you'll be more profitable because you'll be more productive.
Yeah.
Anyway, so there's that whole piece there. And then what I thought, but how do you integrate it across? Bearing in mind, when I first started, in my office was a cheetah telex machine, Kevin read. Oh, yes, the arrival of the fax machine caused quite a stir when I was at work. I started off on a golf ball typewriter. Anyway, and then I know how things move on, eh? Anyway, so what I think is lovely about how technology has moved on is the light it shone. When people criticise social media, I'm saying to, what about Donna Ockenden? Have you heard about her report into Shrewsbury Midwifery Unit? Have you? That started off with one social media post. How do you feel the Ukrainians would be feeling at the moment without social media? Social media reflects life, etc., etc. So what I love about our little model is you've got this brand is at the centre of an orb, a globe, vision, mission, values. Your brand is open to interpretation and inspection from all sides, 24/7.
Yeah.
The only way to be true to yourself is make sure that however you communicate, whether that's owned, earned, or paid media, make sure that you're saying the same things, the same root, the same vision, mission, values are at the root. Oh, why didn't I arrive at this 10 years early, Kevin? But there we go. It's been going for about, well, 2006 was when it was coming together, but I'd say by 2007 and 8 it was properly together, but it took me quite a few years to get that together. I wish it had come sooner. And I wish I tell you people, if you're listening to this and you're thinking of setting up a company, get on BizSmart now, because I love your system, Kevin. I think it's so clear cut, so rational, sensible, based on logic, but also you give people the systems to make things happen. And I can see that I'd have scaled Kinetic a lot sooner if I'd met you sooner.
No, thank you. Thank you for that. That's very, very kind of you. And of course, maybe that's an opportunity. I have a book coming out, or we have a book coming out where that system is actually captured in that. So that'll be out very soon. I'll talk to you about that.
I hope it's a bestseller, and send me a copy and I'll give you a lovely review. I pay for it. I'm not looking for a freebie.
Very kind of you. Thank you. So yeah, and I said I'd come back to it earlier on. You talked about your value set. So why do you think that is so important then within
Oh, it's so important.
People?
So for instance, you've got people who are bringing their mind and body to work, aren't they? More often than not, if you ask most people, yeah, when I'm there, I think about stuff I do, yeah, and I put my back into it. Yeah, fair enough, you're a good worker. But how many people put their heart and soul in? Now, when I say heart and soul, I'm not looking for people to become a company man or woman and that they lose themselves behind, there's so much a company man or woman, they have no sense of family or social life or pleasure or whatever. I'm looking for work to become a pleasure for them because they're so engaged in it. So what do I mean by that? I mean that there's a big pharmaceutical company we did this for, and it was a quality problem. And the quality problem was because somebody who was intrinsic in that journey had not played a proper role in putting their heart and soul into their work. They'd just come to work for the money. As such, there was a problem. It left the NHS exposed, and they needed to sort their reputation with the NHS. It needed to be solved at the root problem, which was culture. And this lady, who was the problem person in question, she refused to be involved in it. She refused to be part of the solution. And the young person said, but there's a lot of sense here. And I can see that there are things that we aren't doing as well as we could if we did X, Y, Z. She poo-pooed it and was a cynic and said, oh, don't worry, this will blow over. It will all be gone in a year's time. It's just another of his initiatives, sort of blaming the chief executive. In 6 weeks, that person was gone. The quality manager was gone because the young people underneath them They wanted to make a difference. They were putting their hearts and souls into that. They could see that there were gaps in their quality management system as to how things could be improved. If you've got a code of conduct, which isn't just a list of values, but of why we're in business and what we do better than anyone else, you give people a framework. It's the same with, if you've got a playground and you don't put any barriers around it, apparently, where do the children play, Kevin?
Right in the
play
middle.
in the centre. Whereas if you put, we did the same, didn't we, Kevin, when we were in the playground? We played right up to the railings, didn't we? Because we could. We knew that that was the boundary. We shouldn't go the other side of that fence. Whatever. It's the same with vision, mission, and values.
Yeah.
It's crazy, but the structure gives you a framework in which to work to. I'm helping plan the church fete here in Ombersley in Worcestershire this year, and I need a bit of structure. I'm this creative person, this crazy person, but I need a bit of structure, please. I can't have no structure in my. And I think that's, you give people that, and then from that they say, so as long as I abide by this, Ange, I'm all right. Yeah, do whatever you want, but as long as it performs to every decent business deserves to be trusted, make a step change with standout communication, care, rigorous, straight talking, pioneering, and delight, you're fine. Just to add a layer of complexity to that, we are ISO 9001 2015. So if ever there's a breach in our quality, we call it a non-conformance. You go into the system, you look what went wrong, and then you put things in place to ensure that they don't go wrong again. But one of our values is pioneering, as I've said. It's okay to go off script, but be aware you're off script, you're flying without a wire. So let's be careful, let's tread carefully, and when it looks highly risky, let's step back.
Excellent. I think some really great advice there. And I think the people talk about scaling up and how you need to have systems in place so that everybody knows what to do. And you do, there's no question about that. But at the end of the day, if you want, one of the biggest challenges is that we've seen with business owners is getting their team members to behave in the way that they would really like them to, essentially the way that they would behave in that situation. And processes help with that, but you're not going to have a process for absolutely everything. And you need, at the end of the day, you need people to go, you need people to go, what's the right thing to do in this situation? What would Angela say is the right thing to do? And if you've got those really strong value set, and therefore those guiding principles that you're talking about, people can make decisions, they can feel empowered to do it without having to necessarily keep knocking on your door and saying, Angela, what do I do now?
The other thing is, with how the market is changing, anybody who tells you they know what's in Google's algorithm, they are liars unless they're Sergey Brin. Anyway, they are, well, even then, they're the founders. They could probably tell you sort of the principles governing it, but there's nobody that knows everything about websites and how it happens. So I always mistrust a bullshit, arrogant website developer. Anyway, but there are things that people learn and tricks, and who are the best people for those tricks and tips? They're the people in the front line that are doing that every day. And only the other day, one of the newest members of our team piped up in a very serious evaluation meeting with head honchos, etc. Actually, if we can do X, Y, and Z, that will enable us to get A, B, C. And the director with her went, yeah, okay, I didn't know we could do that, but yes, if you're yes, I'm sure she said we can do that, so off we go, and we're doing that. But I love that. I love that the youngest member of the team had the confidence to say, not youngest in age, sorry, youngest in newest to the team, although she's youngest in age. Anyway, but just the confidence to say, this is how we could do things, this is how it could be different and better. And that's what clients want. They want people. She's really on side with me. It doesn't feel like I'm talking to a supplier, because we're not. We're partners, and we're working on this problem together. And actually, you might have some ideas, Mr. Client or Mrs. Client, that will help me. We're not the font of all knowledge. Your market's better and your products and other things better. So it's an alchemy, isn't it?
Yeah. Brilliant. I could talk to you for hours, Angela. Really, really enjoying this.
I could witter on for hours.
Yeah. So maybe we need to have another episode at some point. But there's a couple of questions I'd just like to make sure we get in before we wrap up, though, if that's all right. We've touched on a couple of things, but one of those is, if you were to go back to your younger self when you started business, what would you do differently with the benefit of hindsight?
Oh my God, I'd leave a lot sooner. I'd set up a lot sooner.
Right.
I would set up possibly, when did I know enough? In fairness, I had to go through to my late 30s before I knew all that I knew. I got a lot of valuable experience on culture, crisis and issue management, and sort of high-level PR expertise that you can be an all-rounded PR consultancy if you've had that experience. Anyway, but I would set up in my, I suppose, my early 30s. I think, you know, the diminishing returns thing, because the energy that you have in your 30s, I mean, I could easily pull 18-hour days, 5 days a week, whatever. And you need, not that, but you need some element of physical stamina and energy. But I wouldn't put that, if you're in your 50s now, I wouldn't put you off doing it now, because I think you find a way of finding that stamina more cleverly as you get older. And the other bonus of aging is you're more sure of your ground, you're more confident of you as a person, and less prone to the winds, as it were, of change. One of my favourite sayings, it's the set of your sails, not the wind direction, that determines where you end up. It's true though, isn't it? It's the set of your sails. So I think I'd have set my sails earlier, and I would have been more definitive. If I could have arrived at the guarantee and the ISO system sooner, that would have enabled me to scale sooner. And I can feel we're taking off now with the help of Bismarck. I can feel that we're taking off, but I think I could have done that a lot sooner and had a lot easier life.
Brilliant. Good. And what one question I do like to ask everybody as well is what's your primary source? What have you of generating new clients, of finding new clients? What's your best way of getting?
Oh, that's easy. Be who you are. Be who you say you are. So I like if our company had a theme tune, it would be Nirvana. It's come as you are.
Somebody once said to me, you can't get being yourself wrong.
Yeah, that's nice. I like that. You can't get being yourself wrong. I like that a lot.
Yeah.
Yes.
Good. So all right. Excellent.
Yeah.
We've already talked, I think, about a book you might recommend. Would that be Profit First, or would there be another?
No.
What would you recommend then? As
the one that's is the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People.
Stephen Covey.
I remember taking that on holiday to Cyprus, and Mike said, "I can't believe you read such a heavy text as pleasure." I said, "Oh, I love this." Anyway, and it's true, it stayed with me forever.
Yeah, and that's one of those that if you just see the list of the 7 habits, you kind of go, so yeah, well, okay, I get it, fine. But it's not until you really get into the detail of it, is it, that you really understand the power of the simple seven habits. Yeah, really good. And you've mentioned better proposals. Any apps, tools, technology that you've found really helpful for you?
Oh goodness, Dext. What about that little
Dext?
helpful?
Yes,
just take a photo of your receipt rather than having to bundle them up in your purse. I'm sure you've got a purse, Kevin. And rather than having to bundle them up in your purse, and then there's all this paperwork flying around. Just scrub it up, stick it in the bin whilst you go. Dext. What else? Oh,
why did they change the name from Receipt Bank? That was so much better. Anyway,
I didn't know it then. Dext. Right. I think Dext is, I love Xero on the move. I mean, just the mobile phone on the move, I think, is fantastic. I love Microsoft To Do, because I did Getting Things Done by David Allen, and that's made a difference, where I take everything out of my head and it's now in lists. Oh, I love a list, Kevin. I love a list.
Very good.
Anyway, so that's all.
Right. Yeah. Excellent. Now, it's been fantastic talking with you, Angela. If people would like to get hold of you or Kinetic, what's the best way for them to do so?
Oh, we're everywhere. We are what we say that we are, more tagged than a criminal. I can be on email. You can get to me via the website, kineticpr.co.uk, Twitter, we're Kinetic PR, Facebook, LinkedIn, you'll find me there.
So would the website be a good starting point, do you think?
Yeah, fine. Get Brilliant. Me however you wish. Website's great.
Fantastic. Angela, thank you very much indeed for your time today and for being my guest on ScaleUp Radio.
Thank you so much, Kevin. Thoroughly enjoyed it.
Don't forget to take a look at www.bizsmarts.co.uk to access a great range of resources to help you in your scale-up journey. So that's bizsmarts.co.uk, which is bizsmarts.co.uk.
This has been a Monkey Pants Productions podcast.